There are just 8 phases to hitting with world-class technique. And in this video, we're gonna cover all 8 phases, the common mistakes you're probably making, exactly how to fix it, so by the end, your forehand is gonna have way more power, you're gonna have those effortless sensations and that confidence knowing you're playing with world-class technique. I spent the past 14 years mastering this framework. It's what players travel from all around the world to come work with me on, and you're gonna master it by the end of this video. So let's dive in to phase number 1. Have you ever felt slow or late to get to the ball in your forehand? It's likely you weren't executing this first phase. But by mastering this basic phase, you're gonna be able to move quicker with less effort, you're gonna be able to react faster, and you're actually gonna have to cover less court distance. Watch any pro match, you'll see the best players in the world. The first thing they're gonna do on their forehand is they're all gonna land a split step with a precise technique in a precise location at a precise time. The key checkpoints. Number 1, when do the pros split? What you'll see is when the best players in the world land their split, they're landing so they can immediately react to the ball. So the next time you're playing, if you want to unlock this superpower, just watch and notice right when your opponent is just about to make contact, focus on executing a 1 to 3 inch split step where you're gonna hop up just like that. Second question, how did the best players in the world actually split? There's 3 basic checkpoints. Number 1, you can do this right now in real time. You wanna be wider than shoulder width. You wanna, number 2, be on the balls of your feet. And then number 3, you wanna hop up simply 1 to 3 inches. 1 to 3 inches. What this unlocks is a scientific superpower. Did you know the tendons in your muscles actually have natural elastic properties? This is why basketball players go down and up before they slam dunk to be able to jump higher in the air. It's the same principle applied. By landing a split step, it allows you to tap into the natural elasticity of your muscle fibers, allowing you to feel and get so much force with your leg drive and with your reaction. So just focus, split step at that exact time, and with that exact technique, you're gonna be able to move faster with less effort. The third element, where should you split, is you wanna cover 50% of the available options to your opponent. So if, for example, I hit the ball cross, I wanna split step on the cross court side. If I hit the ball down the line, more towards the center. Cross court, gonna split on the cross side, but if I'm coming in the net, I'm actually gonna split so I cover 50% of my opponent's available options. When you're at the baseline, mirror your opponent. When you're at the net, cover that exact same side, and you're gonna be splitting in a world-class location. Now we've covered the split step, let's go into phase number 2 to give you that world-class forehand technique. If you've ever felt like you got tired quickly when playing or in a match, you're gonna love this second phase. Where now we've mastered the split, the second question is, how do the pros use their feet to get to the ball extremely quickly? Wouldn't it be amazing to feel what it's like to be like Roger Federer or Carlos Alcaraz, where they can move such large distances while seeming to do it so effortlessly? This was something I struggled with, and when I learned these 2 basic principles, it completely transformed my own experience, where now I can move so quickly, covering so much distance while barely even trying. The core mistake that most players make is they don't adjust the size of their steps to the size of the distance that they're covering. If we assess any top player in the world, when they cover large distances, you'll see that after they split, they will usually rotate their hips and take a cross step like that, as though they were simply sprinting to go to a position. The common mistake that a lot of players make is, rather than rotating their entire body and moving to be able to sprint to a shot, what they'll do is oftentimes after they're split, they'll keep their body facing and they'll shuffle to the side. The challenge is, biomechanically, your feet can't run that fast running to the side. Just imagine trying to run from a tiger. If you were trying to run from a tiger like this, you're probably gonna get eaten. But if you're in that sprinting position, you're using the optimal running biomechanics, you're gonna be able to react quicker. So just remember, when you're covering large distances, focus on taking larger running steps. When you then get closer to the ball, or you're covering less distance, focus on taking smaller shuffle steps. The basic principle, big steps for big distances, and you'll master world-class positioning. Let's dive in to phase number 3. If you've ever felt frustrated because you were late, jammed, or overall tight on your forehand, this phase is gonna transform everything for you. Where what you'll see, when the best players in the world split in position, they'll all execute virtually identical phases, which is gonna allow them to generate that huge effortless power from their entire body as they accelerate. And the phase that unlocks all of these benefits is called the uniturn. The key checkpoints you wanna focus on in your next rally are right when your opponent hits the ball, focus on getting your entire body rotated with your elbow back right away. So notice right after the ball comes, I'm gonna get set and I'm able to accelerate using the bigger muscles of my body going forward, splitting, rotating, and driving aggressively. There's two primary checkpoints that we're gonna cover that I mentioned in the forehand transformation system, which you can learn by clicking the link in the description, where the common mistake, number one, players will either not rotate their body fully or their elbow won't be positioned all the way back. If we look at every top player in the world, you'll see when they execute their uniturn phase, their chest is gonna be rotated at least 90 degrees. In other words, their shoulders are gonna be pointed in a straight line towards the net. And number two, their right elbow is gonna be positioned back to be approximately in line with the shoulders. This basic checkpoint allows you to fluidly drop your racket and accelerate using the bigger muscles of your body. When you're taking your racket back, focus on rotating your body 90 degrees and getting that elbow back, and it's gonna unlock that fluid, effortless power. Let's jump in to phase number 4. If you're struggling to create the wrist lag position or unlock that flip on your forehand to give you that effortless power, this phase is gonna be a massive unlock for you. Where what we'll see when the best players in the world split, position, and finish with their uniturn phase, they will all achieve a virtually identical backswing phase. Whether you play with a straight arm or a bent arm, no matter what your style is, there are 3 crucial checkpoints that you must master in order to actually unlock that racket flip to get that massive spin. Number 1, you wanna see that your right arm is in a straight line with your shoulders or roughly in line with the right hip. Number 2, you wanna have the racket above the hand. To create the racket above the hand, you simply wanna extend your wrist. This is called wrist extension. And then number 3, you wanna have the racket oriented away from the body at least a 45-degree angle, just like that. What you do when you achieve those 3 checkpoints, it then allows the forward acceleration to create that counter lagging force in the racket. So just remember, if you wanna play with world-class technique, just focus on achieving those 3 basic checkpoints with your backswing, and you can click the link in the description to get even more advanced drills. Let's dive in to the next phase. Understanding this phase could be the biggest transformation of this entire video, because when I first started playing tennis, I would step out on the court, I would be really excited to swing with my forehand, but when I made contact or when I tried to swing hard, all of a sudden I got tight, I got tense, and it would feel really bad, and my balls would often just sail along or drop in the net. But by mastering this one crucial concept of understanding how exactly to modify and focus with my swing, transformed everything. Where what we'll see when the pros split, position, uniturn, and backswing, they're all going to accelerate in a very similar fashion. Or notice when the pros accelerate, their arm will actually travel on an arc path away from their body. And as their arm travels away from their body, the mistake that I used to make was I used to focus on really tightening up my wrist, tightening up my forehand, because I learned that from a lot of coaches, you should try to snap your wrist. But the reality from studying the biomechanics research to just really deeply assessing what's actually happening when the pros bomb their 100-mile-per-hour forehands is the key is the little muscles like the wrist and like the forearm actually stay very relaxed, whereas the big muscles like the legs, the hips, the trunk, and the pec and shoulder are the muscles that activate. So by focusing on driving from the bigger muscles of your body while simultaneously keeping those little muscles relaxed, it allows you to create this arc acceleration path of the arm traveling away from the body into your contact, and then into your follow through. I created a concept that will really allow you to understand this intuitively. It's called the activation relaxation spectrum, where if we take a look at Djokovic, you'll notice that the muscles closest to his racket are relaxed, whereas the muscles further away from his racket, his pec, his shoulder, his big muscles, those are the muscles that he activates. So just remember, when you do your split, you get positioned with your unit turn and backswing. As you accelerate, keep your wrists relaxed and activate your pec and shoulder. Here's one of the dozens of drills in my forehand transformation system that will give you world-class forehand technique. Well, what you can do is focus on starting from that backswing position we just mastered. Grip the racket very lightly, even taking off your pinky and your ring finger for even greater relaxation. And as you accelerate, focus on keeping your arm as relaxed as possible while simultaneously accelerating from the pec and shoulder, from the legs, from the rotation, and you'll find yourself feeling this very pleasurable sensation in your chest. You can then take this one step further by hand feeding yourself balls, focusing on that checkpoint, and deliberately keeping your wrist as relaxed as possible as you accelerate using the bigger muscles of your body. And I can speak from my own experience from being somebody who used to not be able to hit the ball hard, feel tight. This drill is gonna make you feel so amazing as you accelerate with those bigger muscles. Let's now close with the last two phases to give you that world-class technique. Mastering this phase will take your forehand from feeling tight and weak to very fluid and very powerful, in control, and effortless. Every single top player in the world, as they accelerate, they're all gonna make contact in virtually identical positions, where there's two crucial checkpoints that we're gonna master in this video. Number one, you'll see from a rear angle, every top player in the world, when they make contact, their elbow is gonna be positioned in front of their chest at approximately a 45-degree angle. What this allows you to do is be in a biomechanically leveraged contact position where you're gonna be able to use all the force from your big muscles of your arm, like your pec and your shoulder, to give you that fluid, easy experience with your contact. The second crucial checkpoint that is a common mistake you're probably making in some form or another is the orientation of the wrist. Where notice when the best players in the world make contact, their racket is gonna be roughly in line with their hand, just like that. It's not gonna be behind, it's not gonna be flexed. So the key checkpoint you wanna focus on feeling when you make contact is essentially when you make contact with the ball, you wanna feel your palm is oriented in a straight line towards the net. This is created by extension of the wrist, extending the wrist. You'll remember that from our backswing checkpoint. By starting there, it allows us to be in that optimal position. By extending the wrist, it then allows you to get the maximum force into the ball, again, from those bigger muscles. Whereas if you're flexed, all that force goes into those little muscles. So if you've ever experienced wrist pain after playing, it's likely because you were hinging your wrist forward as you accelerate. So just remember, the next time you step on the court, one of the many tips we cover in the forehand transformation system is when you accelerate, the wrist stays relaxed and you keep it extended all the way through to that contact. Master those two basic checkpoints and it's gonna make you feel so effortless when you strike the ball. Have you ever felt like the harder you swung, the less consistency you had? How did the best players in the world accelerate with massive force, with massive speed, while maintaining a highly consistent shot as they drive forward into the ball? The key has everything to do with the second to last phase, the follow through. What mistake you're probably making if you find yourself sailing your balls long or just overall feeling tense when you accelerate is you're likely not accelerating through your finish while maintaining an extended wrist. Here's what I mean. Let's break down some of the greatest forehands in history from a side angle. Notice how as they follow through, their racket will actually stay relatively in the same position relative to the hand as they accelerate going forward. Essentially, when the best players in the world accelerate, their wrist will stay in an extended position all the way through the finish. Whereas the common mistake a lot of players make is when they focus on finishing, they'll flex their wrist forward. This flexion of the wrist is what causes your balls to sail long. So just remember, when you accelerate, just like we focused on in the acceleration phase, we're keeping the big muscles accelerating and the little muscles relaxed. There's 3 key anatomical motions you want to focus on to really master this. Number 1, as you're accelerating, you want to focus on adducting your arm forward. That's just making your arm go on a straight path forward. Number 2, you want to be flexing your arm. That's raising your arm up. And then the third and final motion to focus on is the internal rotation of the shoulder. That's the entire shoulder joint internally rotating. That's where the topspin is coming from. It's not from the wrist. It's not from trying to swing low to high. It's getting that shoulder to brush and internally rotate the racket just like that. As you accelerate, it's then going to allow you to generate huge force, huge spin, and huge consistency. Notice how as I execute those 3 anatomical motions, as I accelerate, I'm getting an effortless shot, I'm getting a heavy topspin shot, and I'm getting a highly consistent shot. Focus on those 3 elements during your follow through. It's gonna make a huge game-changing difference and allow you to have so much fun accelerating on that forehand. All right, so we've mastered the split, the positioning, uniturn, backswing, acceleration, contact, follow through. Final piece, how do the pros move back to recover themselves into the optimal position? The most common mistake, if you ever felt yourself slow to react or late, it's likely you were making this mistake, where after you finish accelerating, just like we learned with the positioning phase, if you accelerate and you need to move into a much further distance, the best players in the world, after they accelerate, they're gonna take those large cross steps versus instead, don't focus on taking those small shuffle steps. All right, so piecing together all 8 phases, the split, positioning, uniturn, backswing, acceleration, contact, follow through, recovery, you'll find that when you play, you'll have a blueprint of what to focus on with your forehand, how to load up, how to accelerate, and it just makes playing so much more fun because you have that confidence of knowing you're executing every single phase at a world-class level, allowing you to be aggressive, allowing you to hit out, allowing you to have fun, and even when you miss, you'll still always have something to improve. Oh yeah, and develop to become a world-class athlete. Follow these 8 checkpoints. I invite you to click the link, join me in the forehand transformation system, and I'll see you in the next video. Let's go.